All right, welcome to the Male to Man podcast. We have a very special guest today, brother who has inspired me along my journey in this, building males and trying to help them become man. It comes with male development, healing, and fatherhood. This brother is very big in the fatherhood space, but very pro black space as well. So today we have Belief in Fatherhood. He's an author, a podcaster, rapper, a husband, amongst many other things. One very cool thing he does is he hosts Black Man on Saturday mornings. We actually just got finished talking about it before we went live. So I would like to introduce Glenn from Belief in Fatherhood today. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing so good, bro. I'm doing okay, actually. I'm not gonna lie to you. A therapist just checked in with me. He's like, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" And I was like, "I haven't checked in with myself for a couple of days. I'm doing okay." And so that's how I'm doing. Um, yeah, I just want to be honest about that. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. I'm actually excited about the interview today, man. I try to do research as much as I can, but I try to lead for curiosity as well. So I've been
Yeah,
diving in um, to how married are you? How married are we?
yeah.
To belief in fatherhood. So there's some interesting things I would like to ask, man. That I didn't want to
Come on, bring it
overwhelm you
on.
with questions, but yeah. So I'm excited.
Let's get into it, man. I prefer the conversations that I don't usually have. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes when you're a creator, people want to honor you so much that they don't ever challenge you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm open to both of it because a lot of it, because sometimes I'm kind of like, hey man, I don't know why I do that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And other times I'm like, nah, I know exactly why. Here's my reason, you know?
yeah. I mean, okay. So the last few days, one thing that really sticks out to me about you, like I had said a moment ago, we just talked about it. You are very okay with being open, being vulnerable, and you're very introspective. Did that come from therapy? Is that something you've always had? How did that start?
So I think that initially came from survival. My mom was, she didn't really allow for a lot of error. And when something was my fault, it was my fault. So I always looked to myself first. What is wrong? What did I do? Right. Which
Yeah.
is actually a very toxic thing. Right. So in my mind, I was already doing that. When I started to step into different spaces, when I got out of my adolescent arrogance, which a lot of us go through during our times when we eat whatever we want and our bodies still look the same and we're confident and
Mm.
crazy about it. When I kind of got out of that and I started to actually have to work through some of my thoughts, I began to like really sit with my thoughts and be like, damn man, this is really kind of unhealthy. I have this really negative inner voice that I actually got from my childhood. And so uh therapy would give me the language to communicate how I'm feeling. But I've always been someone that's kind of like, why you think like that? Like I'm always questioning myself. Not because I view myself as a project, but just because I know that everything I think isn't right. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm able to communicate it better because of therapy. My therapist has been an incredible therapist. He's incredible. He challenges my thoughts. He's big on my words. Why'd you say that? Why you use that word? What does that mean? Right. And so I will always have to back up what I'm saying. So, um, being vulnerable, being honest is being human. Right. And so
Mhm.
as much as I want to say, you know what I'm saying? Like the Holy Spirit is in me, residing in me, and I'm a child of God. I'm still human as hell. You know what I'm saying? And so a part of that is, giving myself permission to just be normal, and a normal is to be flawed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard you said it a few times. And this is, I didn't have this plan, but I kind of wanted to, with you being saying that, because I talked to another creator, shout out to Vanity Rodriguez, a Christian creator, who went through it online in light amongst like the Kev on stage things that are going on.
Okay.
being a larger creator like that, how important is it to have that mindset of being okay with being flawed, especially in the, I don't know if you necessarily classify yourself in the Christian space, but kind of in that healing space.
All right. So I would say I definitely am I definitely am a quote unquote Christian standard, right? Whatever Jesus said, I want to do that. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of Christian I am. I'm not an evangelical nationalist, that type of Christian. I'm also heavily black. Oh,
Yeah.
and I love being black, and I love that God made me black. I'm very proud to be a black man. So those are two things that sometimes are at war with each other depending on who you're talking to. But you brought up Kev on stage, and you brought up this other gentleman I don't know. I want to get the question right. I want to get the question right so I can answer it properly. But what I think you asked me is how important is it to be flawed, right? And I think it's essential, especially to Christians. I think and this is going to be clips. I'm about to give you clips. So if you don't use the clips, it's on you.
Yeah.
But I'm about to give you clips, bro. I think most evangelicals are cowards. Okay. We want people to be married, and we want married people to be between just men and women. And we want fathers to be active, and we want mothers to be whatever. You know what I'm saying? But we don't show it. We hide it. We hide it. We stand on a pulpit. We talk about it. We do nothing else. We are lazy with our evangelism. We are lazy with our Christ likeness. It's something to be shown through a movie, read in a book, but not actually experienced in real life. I want to know what my pastor says when he gets cut off on the way to church. I want to know what happens when he's dealing with the depression. A lot of us don't know that. That's why all of a sudden we got scandals, and this happened, and this guy, you know, because we don't show those little things. So I think what Kev on stage did was actually brilliant, where he's kind of like, yeah, man, I masturbate. I beat my meat. I'll be beating my meat, right? That's what he said. Right? Which is crazy because that's my guy. And I defend Kev on stage, you know, a lot because I know him in real life, and I know how he treats his people, and I know how he treats his children and his wife. And I know how the other people, because I've been in the Christian space for a long time, I know how the other people who talk about Kev on stage treat their people. And there's a big difference. You know what I'm saying? So I love what he did because he's basically said, hey, please stop using me as the standard for your Christianity. Right. And if I have to be the type of Christian that you respect to be in your group, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to do that, right? Because I'm going to fail you every single time. All I want to do is create my things, you know, put on my friends. And really, I do feel like he's trying to be a good, like, believer. Like, I really think he's trying to represent Jesus well. But anytime he does anything, when he takes a sip of a drink at a concert, the internet went crazy for that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, he can't do anything right. And so he just kind of like, well, let me wrong it all up for you. Let me make me not the standard so I can just go do what I want to do in peace and try to hold on to the Jesus I know, you know? And so I really do respect how everyone perceives things. I like to give people the space because, you know, like, I hold space for black men, and I'm okay with black men being like, I don't like that. But, you know, what Kev on stage is essentially is he's almost like a gateway Christian. Right. So if somebody's interested in Christianity and they're like, dang, man, I heard about Jesus, but I don't know no Christians, but I know Kev on stage. Right. If you know who Kev on stage is, can take your friend to a concert or a comedy show, take him and then talk about Jesus with him at some point. You can be the other, you know, the more refined, you know, version of Christianity for him. But we don't see it like that. We want Kev on stage to be like us or how we show up on Instagram or whatever. Right. And so I'm really sick and tired of like, you know, believers in this way, because I just feel like there's so much to show people and there's so much grace to be had, but we want to be perceived as perfect. that means nobody wants to join our club. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to be perfect, bro. It's impossible anyway.
Yeah. That was a clip. I think it's kind of it. I don't know. It's like we do as believers, we do want perfection from our leaders, idols, and that may be the problem. Is as believers, I don't think we should be looking to people the way the world per se looks at them. So, we have these idols and we put people on a pedestal. But I mean, biblically, all the man in the Bible essentially failed. There's only really one, Jesus, and I guess you could say Joseph. But it's one of those things where the Bible is kind of clear about man and humanity and our hearts and how we fail and how we are flawed, but we serve a perfect God. So I do understand that. Uh, because do you think when you build your base of Christianity that you have a responsibility to, to the people who may not be as knowledgeable as you, or may be young in their walks? I think so. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, for Kev on stage, he built a Christian. I don't know how we got on Kev's stage, but he built a Christian base. So sometimes, and I agree with what you're saying. I just feel like there's an added level of responsibility, kind of the Superman quote: "With great power comes," or Spider-Man, "Great power comes great responsibility."
Absolutely.
So certain things you say does hold a little bit more weight when you are a believer.
I agree. But what's your question?
My question is, can you be flawed and not be proud that you're flawed? I think some of the discourse around it is kind of is nuanced. I kind of sit on, like, hey, I understand, like, the drink I get is certain things that I feel like once you start to be proud of it, then that kind of takes a different type of turn. But I understand what you're saying is, hey, I need to knock myself off the pedestal as well.
Yeah, I mean, no, he doesn't have to boast in his sin. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not necessary, but he's the standard for a lot of other things that a lot of other Christians fail at. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know why he beats his meat. I don't know why. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know what I'm saying? But I've beaten my meat before, so I understand the urge to beat your meat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and then it's like, well, the Bible says the lust is the sin, right? Not the actual physical thing, unless you go to the Old Testament where spilling of the seed, right? All this stuff we get into. And it's kind of like, hey, bro, that's none of our business on his motivation behind beating his meat. It's just none of our business, right? He said it so he's just like, look, if y'all gonna get me for this, you might as well get me for this and this and this. Just take me out. He's tired.
Yeah.
My man is tired. You know what I'm saying? And so my thing is, bro, we've seen so many pastors rise to fame. We've seen a lot of Christian, whatever, rise to like this success level, and we've seen them all fall down. Every single one of them. You know what I'm saying? At some part, you kind of like, dang, bro, you not paying people? Dang, bro, you taking advantage of these type of people? Oh, you're not standing silent on this? You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know why he does that, but I do understand it.
Yeah. And I want to kind of take it off Kevin on stage. On stage too. Because my larger question is, I don't know if I know you advocate for being flawed. So I assume that comes from a little bit of kind of this, people now calling it parasocial relationships. So I think a lot of in the Christian community we have that a lot, but you know, in other just parts of being a social media content creator, you have that. Do you? Well, I guess my larger question is like, is that where the I want to be flawed comes from? Of people expecting so much from you and then trying to tear you down or quote unquote counseling you for just being human?
Well, I'm flawed. Flawedness leads to humanity. So I want to be human. I am human.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm flawed. That's just a part of being human. That's normal. Right. Now, I think that if you're a human, you have to lead with that, because that's the whole point of being loved by grace.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we really don't deserve his love. You know what I'm saying? Like, but he loves us anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so that is the whole point, is like, yeah, I'm a flawed individual. Now, when it comes to the Black community and Black church, there's so many rules and traditions. You know what I'm saying? Don't cross over the podium, or don't bring snacks into the sanctuary. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a whole bunch of rules. You know what I mean? And I like to focus on the Black church because I've gone to a predominantly white church, but I like to focus on what our experience is as a whole. And so, I just don't think that it's fair to show people what's not honest.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a disservice to humanity. I think, like, the political structure right now, the way evangelicals move through our politics, and how we are so okay with genocide, or we are so okay with pedophilia or rape, like, we aren't necessarily doing a good job. we're making Jesus look bad. If this, like,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I can't really rock with a lot of those right-leaning people. You know what I'm saying? I know somebody who is very right-wing and very Christian, that has he's protecting Black life. Like, he has access to Black people, and you know, he's not okay with it, with how his white counterparts treat the Black lives that he's around, but he just thinks it's like, well, I'm still going to vote this way because this is my Christian beliefs. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like, do you not understand how those things fuel each other? You know what I mean? And so I'm not necessarily interested in being part of the perfect group. I don't even want to be perceived as a perfect father. Like, I'm trying my hardest, right, to protect my children. But even still, I know I need God to help me do that, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know what's happening in the world to where we've decided, you know, that being perceived as flawed is a problem. Like, can you help me understand that?
I think from the consumer or the average person standpoint is I think that we're worshiping the people that we see
Yeah.
online. I think it's idolization.
Right.
That's a word, honestly. And so in order to keep, and I think on one end, and not even just content creators, I think you spoke about pastors and, you know, leaders earlier. In order to keep that love or admiration or keep your business going, you need to keep up this look, because once people see you as human, then there's no more. I need no longer to look at this person, or I no longer even like them, or you know, my delusion is over. So I think that is what it is for me, from what I see. And so, you know, people say you should never want to meet your idols. So I think that's part of it.
Well, we shouldn't even have idols, right? We're not supposed to have idols anyway, right? But I think the true thing, I think, is that there's a lot more Kevon Stages out there. There's a lot more Jackie Hill Perry's, Tabitha Browns, Toby Wigwe, right? Whatever. There's a lot more people out there who have the ability to do it. We just lazy and scared. So we don't want to do it. We want to judge how other people do it because we don't want to do it because we want to be disobedient and we want to idol worship. Right.
Yeah.
So we got to call the main thing the main thing. You're idolizing Kev on stage. You don't think he's throwing his platform well, but you wouldn't be able to do it if you were him because you're scared to get on the stage anyway. If everybody was operating in their gifting, the world would change. If everybody was celebrating what it's like to be married, you loving their children, right? And we showed what that actually looked like, there would be more births. We need more proof of good fatherhood. I didn't want to be a dad until I saw proof. So I wanted to be proof for other people. Now, some people look at that and be like, I'm not doing that. I don't want that. I don't want that many people attached to me. I'm too selfish. And that's a really good thing that we show that so they can know, hey, I'm not built for have throw up in my mouth. Like, I'm not built for that. I will zap out. Right. And so, like, if we are just honest, we'd be okay. The truth is, most of our marriages ain't nothing to celebrate or show because they trash.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, most of us don't know how to communicate. We want the Bible to convict our wives to be submissive, but we don't want to lead them and wash them with the word. Like, there's so much happening. Right. And so I get really irritated by the talk of the Christian, especially the Christian creative or the Christian fan, right? Because we are the influence. We're the influence, you know, and anybody who predominantly sits behind a microphone and talks about other people, anybody who mainly stands up on a stage and preaches a certain specific topic, and then, you know, 10% of their life is actually done in real relationship. I got a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it should be the opposite. You know, 10% of your life should be, or 5% should be on that stage, right? And the rest of it should be showing other people how. And there's some good brothers out there. I'm not saying that all Christians are like this. Of course, I know people who have prayed for me, knocked on my door, prayed for me, and got me into community. Like, I know people like that. But if you're monetizing the faith, I don't really know if you're genuine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why when I rhyme, I'm not a big Jesus bar guy. Like, I don't just put scripture in Jesus because it's sacred. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't do that because I think for me, it doesn't seem right. It seems like I'm trying to monetize my faith, you know?
Yeah. I get that. I get that. That's that's another rabbit hole. I don't want to get too deep into the monetizing of the faith thing because I have different takes on that. But you did talk about people and their gifting, and that is one of our first topics. But first, just to be fun, because this is going up on social media right now, man, with I think her name is Brandy, and her thoughts on marriage. And but how long do you think it takes a man to know that he's with the right person?
I think that's an everyday decision. I don't know if you know you're with the right person. I think you make the decision and you make it right every day. You know, I'm choosing you and I'm going to be obedient to my decision. And sometimes that looks like being quiet. Sometimes that looks like speaking. Sometimes it looks like saying what you don't want to hear. And I know I have to say it because no one else is going to tell you the truth. Sometimes it's going to say, hey, that friend is not good for you. I don't trust that person. You know, other times it's going to be, holding her without any, sexual gratification. Rubbing feet, making food, learning to make her favorite dish. Those are decisions that you are making. You know what I mean? And then being open to when the script changes. You know what I'm saying? Because who you marry is not who you end up with, right? Yeah. So that person is going to shift and change and become someone different, and you have to shift with that and learn how to love her in a new way. I got a vasectomy after my fourth child. I did not think our marriage could withstand another pregnancy. She was not hearing me. And I felt like I was getting sick to my stomach being in a relationship. And I was like, if we have another child, I'm going to get a divorce because she's not seeing me. And
Yeah.
I was really hurt by that. And so I got a vasectomy. 4 years later, 5 years later almost, she's completely different. I would have 10 children. I would have 10 more children with this version of my wife. But I made a permanent decision based on a temporary situation that honestly, that's really hard for me not to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm kind of like, hey, you don't understand. Like, I'm questioning whether or not we belong together because of when we have children, how much you don't think about me. Like, it's not that I need you to care for me. I can care for myself well, but you're making decisions against what I believe is safe for our family based on the children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not gonna put myself through that again. I'm not gonna allow you to put me through that again. So I'm out. I'm taking control of what I can control, and I'm getting a vasectomy. You know, bad decision.
How did
overall.
it? I mean, I feel like that was a big one. How did that? How did that change or affect you guys' relationship at that time? That decision.
Well, she wasn't for it in the beginning, but then once our son got around like 3 months, not 3 months. How long was it? I think it was like a year and a half or something like that. So she was like, set the appointment, do it now. You know what I'm saying? Because she couldn't get him weaned off, you know, and it was one of those things. And I knew it wasn't going to last long. So I was like, okay, cool. And like the next week I was in there, cut up, and that was it, you know? And so it was fine. But now she's kind of like, man, you're such a great father. We are such a safe place for family and life. I would love to have another baby. We should have another baby. You know, I was just like, you know, that's never going to happen, you know. I wish I wouldn't have done that though. You know what I'm saying? But it's good to learn those lessons because you can now make that decision. Now, what if I was a proud Christian, I would be like, you should have been more obedient. You should have seen me more in that season. And I wouldn't have done that. You know what I'm saying? Like I would make it her fault because I couldn't handle it. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was a proud Christian, I'd be like, you know, I'll try to reverse it, or I'll, you know, try to adopt, or, you know, try to force it to rectify it and put it under my own control. And that's not what God is telling me to do. He's telling me that's a lesson, bro. Stop doing that. Stop making permanent decisions because your emotions are in the way. Stop doing that. I got more for you. You know what I'm saying? Like I have other things for you to endure instead of quitting. Stop quitting. That's what God is speaking to me. Right? Now I had to learn that through my lineage. What a terrible way to learn a very basic lesson.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Wow.
Clips, man. We running them up. We spitting them out, dog.
So I want to go into this concept too, because one of the first times I seen you talked about you know, early in your marriage and not having a 5-year plan, man, and it's kind of was a catalyst to belief in fatherhood. Can you take us into that conversation? My question is, what was that time like for you as a man, you know, having that conversation and then having to grow out of that?
Got to do some promo. All right. So I talk about this a lot in my book, right? A 5-year plan every man needs to have. It's not like you actually don't have to have it. But if you want to be intentional and make the people around you feel secure, it's good to have a plan. When you get in the car, you know where you're going, right? You don't sit there and be like, well, I'm going to make 3 rights and maybe I'll get there. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to follow my heart and that's going to lead me into the ocean. You know what I'm saying? Like go, like you have directions, right? And so my wife was really asking me, you know, what was my plan, right? But first it was just like, hey, tell me a bedtime story, right? But I was like, man, I'm not trying to do that. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm not trying to be creative. I'm sleepy like you sleepy, right? We have these kids. I'm
Yeah.
tired. So she's like, well, tell me your 5-year plan. I should have told her the bedtime story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That would have been way easier, you know? But I was like, whatever God has for us, try to take the easy way out. And she was like, I trust you with my family and my future. And you don't got 5 years planned out. She rolled over and went to sleep. And I was stuck really contemplating my life. Cause I'm kind of like, what kind of person am I that doesn't have a plan? Now, most men would get triggered by that and be like, why are you always questioning, you have no faith, blah, blah, blah. Like, I could have easily tried to do that, but it was a real good question. Like, hey, you are the leader of our family and where are we going, bro? What are we supposed to be doing? And so, it just was kind of like a gut check. And I went and I stood in front of a guy who I respect a lot. His name is Scotty James. He sat me down in his office and wrote on a whiteboard and asked me about my 5-year plan. I said I didn't have one. 10-year plan. I didn't have one. 15-year plan. I said, I know I don't want to be rapping no more. You know what I'm saying? Telling people to put their hands up, right? I never wanted to be a dad until I saw proof of good fatherhood. So I like to be telling people how great it is to be a father. He's like, well, tell me more about that. And I was like, well, I just want to talk to these people and tell them how great it is. He was like, okay, well, who are these people? I was like, well, in 15 years, they're probably in middle school right now. So probably middle schoolers. He was like, okay, but where's their attention? And I was like, oh, it's on the internet. He was like, where at it on the internet? Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. That's where it was popping in. And then YouTube. So, okay, well, how much money do you want to make? And I was like, probably $300,000 a year. So I think we'd be comfortable with that. So, okay, how often? Oh, so he goes, how do you want to make your money? I said, speaking and writing books. He said, okay, how many people do you need to buy your book each year and book you for speaking, to make $300,000 a year? So we did the math and worked backwards. It turns out I needed to post every week on YouTube, 2 times a week, 2 times a day on Instagram, 3 times a day on Twitter. And we just worked backwards. And he said, okay, this is the 15-year plan. I came home, I told my wife, and she didn't even look at it. She just was like, cool, you got a plan. And then but I was like, yeah, this is my plan. And I sat there and I looked at it and I just was kind of like, this is what I'm going to do. And I sat down and I did it every night, 2:00 in the morning, editing videos, making sure I had a story to tell, learning how to edit, learning how to make music and transition. Like I just was figuring it all out. And that's kind of how it started. But it started with my wife challenging me, which most people avoid. We avoid those challenging conversations.
Mm. How'd you get comfortable in those conversations?
Well, the comfort had nothing to do with it. The discomfort was actually what, remember I told you in the beginning about I was always trying to figure out what my issue was, right?
Yeah.
So I was already really analytical and being like, why am I not functioning? Why don't I have a plan? Who was supposed to tell me I was supposed to have a plan? You know what I'm saying? Like, where's my dad at? Nick, why you ain't tell me I need to have a plan? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd never heard that question before,
Yeah.
I always heard, what do you want to be? It's almost like, what costume do you want to wear for Halloween in the future?
Yeah.
For all your Halloweens every day, what do you want to dress up as? And I was thinking, a doctor, because that's what would get people to leave me alone. You know what I mean? But I knew I was a creative. It's just that creativity was not really allowed in the Black house. Like, cool, you can draw, nigga, but please figure out what you want to do with your time, because this is just some artsy fartsy stuff that ain't gonna make you no money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're in the age of social media. The graffiti artists who are painting shoes are making thousands of dollars a post. You know what I'm saying? So it had nothing to do with comfort, but it did have a lot to do with me really just honoring what my wife was asking me and really asking the question, why don't you have this figured out yet? Comfort is the least important thing that we are all worried about. You know what I'm saying? Like that has no business on your radar. Only time you should think about comfort is recovery and sleep. You know what I mean? When it comes to most engagements and conversations we need to have, you know, and your kids. Say, I'm not comfortable with you hanging out with that person. I'm not comfortable with you going over there. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't bring me any peace. But in every other situation, comfort is going to lead you astray.
Comfort will lead you astray. Okay, so was it that day that you decided to pivot from music?
I shouldn't have pivoted. That's one. But yes, essentially, it wasn't that day. It was after the second video went viral. So I had that conversation in May of 2015. October 25th, 2015, the second video went viral. And like, I was like, oh, there's something here. And then for the next like 5 months, it was dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, videos here and there, you know, videos doing okay, you know, good, you know, 5,000 views, 7,000 views, 10,000, 20, 30, you know what I'm saying? But nothing crazy. And so, but then I knew it was a market for it. The second video went viral. When the second video went viral, there was a lot of like racists. Oh, he'll be gone in a week. Oh, look, the monkeys are multiplying. You know what I'm saying? A lot of that. And this is back when, this is before YouTube, because YouTube actually went and deleted all the comments from all family channels because there were predators like leaving little codes in the videos to show like children in vulnerable positions, and it would screenshot it and put it up on a site or something like that. So YouTube started deleting all the comments. But before they did that, this is what the comments look like, you know? And so I started to get really angry and be like, dang, man, like white people, and some white people are racist, but they really think like this about us. And then I was like, you know, shame on them. But like, also like, I felt like, dang, man, like this is a great opportunity to prove them wrong. You know what I mean? And so that was kind of like another like reason why it was valuable. Music, I never should have left music, but I had me and the Dream Junkies. I was in a crew called the Dream Junkies with Ruslan and this guy named John Gibbs, who's my wife's little brother. We were having a hard time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I'm one of them dudes that's kind of like, all right, I'm out. I like to quit. Boy, I like to quit, right? I quit. I had that vasectomy, you know what I'm saying? But there was some stuff happening with like money and finance and trust. And, you know, Ruslan was, you know, really, really smart guy. You know what I'm saying? He was a good leader in that way. But I don't think he understood that what John and I were dealing with, we were family. So it would make Thanksgivings and Christmases and those type of things really awkward, you know, because the fact is when John, I don't know if you know who John Gibbs is. Do you know who that is?
But I will know after this episode. Okay.
His older music. I mean, he's like one of the most phenomenal, most talented, creative musicians. He is really good. Gotta listen to his old stuff because now he's on some R&B stuff right now, but his raps, incredible, right? He was like essentially the star, the young, like kind of like amazing, like heartthrob, you know what I'm saying? And so when I'm a big guy on accountability, I threaten the money if I'm pissing off the heartthrob, and I'm making it really awkward at family events. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm kind of like, so what? I don't care how good you rap. You will suck. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, we're arguing all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like pride is in the way. And Ruslan's like, don't mess up the money. Don't say anything. Come on. You know what I'm saying? And it just didn't work, you know? And so once that, I used that as kind of like my reason to stop rhyming. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, all right, I don't really need to do this. I'll put it in my videos, but I'm not going to take it seriously. And that was honestly to my detriment because God never told me to put that down. You know, he maybe gave me the permission to leave that group, but not to put it down. Yeah. But you understand, like, that's a flaw. The vasectomy is a flaw. For you, that gives you freedom. You might be in a situation right now where you're like, or somebody listening being like, I don't really like hanging out with these people, and I don't really think I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm going to quit. Don't quit. Just stop hanging around with the people. You know what I'm saying? Like, that gives you freedom to be like, well, let me learn from belief and not have to go through it myself and mess up my money. You know?
Yeah. I need to be honest. Like, I think that resonates with me because I had a training business that went through, like, I'm a coach, a basketball trainer. So I had a training business that went through a hard time, and I let it go to go into operations management, and I did not like it.
That don't sound fun. It don't
I did not
sound
like
fun,
it.
bro.
I did not like it. It started to get really hard with the training. And now, like, I'm podcasting, and I'm honestly getting back into that. And so I resonated with, like, dang, I quit too early, and now I'm back here. But that
Yes.
leads me to say, so you talked about growing up in poverty. I grew up in poverty as well, man. When my money gets funny, and I notice this kind of came from my dad as well, it like, that's where my faith is tested most. So in this time where you like, all right, I'm putting down the music, I'm gonna do this YouTube thing, 5 months, it's dry. How are you making money?
Well, my wife was working. She was a math teacher, and I was doing like feature sales for like diapers and gas, like the bills I had to cover. Like I'm like rapping and still trying to like keep my little hip hop career up. My last album I put out, in Fatherhood, it's a really good album. But the team that I was on with, the Dream Junkies, those guys, they all kind of quit on me at the end. And so I didn't really have the support. So I think the album like maybe made like $1,800 in the first week, which is like not even enough to cover our mortgage. And I just was like, man, this is not working. So, I was taking job interviews and stuff like that. And then, I think it was the next year, my wife was like, she quit her job. And so it was like, hey, it's now or never. You gonna fly or sink, bro. And so I called Gary Vee. You know who that is?
Yeah.
All right. So Gary Vee had a show, and I called in on his show, and he had some restaurant guy on his show. And I called in and I was like, hey, man, like I have this thing. I got, about 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm really trying to make this thing work. I'm a father and blah, blah, blah. And at the time, Apple used to have the shot on iPhone billboards everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my pictures got picked up and chosen to be on like, I think it was like 90 countries or something like that, and billboards all over the world. So I was like, hey, how can I make more out of this opportunity? You know what I'm saying? And Apple paid me, less than $1,000 for the photo. Right. But I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm the fatherhood guy. Like, you should pay me more than that. So I was trying to make more money. And I just was grinding and grinding and grinding. And I got on the phone with Gary Vee, and he was like, I think you need to go work for someone. I think you need to get a job. He was like, yeah, like find someone who's a really good whatever, and just be their cameraman and just film them and build that trust and da-da-da. And I was like, Gary, I got 3 kids. What are you talking about? Like, in my mind, I didn't say this to Gary because I don't know what I was on, but I just was like, man, I can't hear that. And so I reached out to Alfonso Ribeiro, Carlton from the Fresh Prince. He lived in San Diego. I don't know if he still lived there, but I knew he was close by. And I was like, hey, I would love to be your cameraman, da 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 da. And he didn't respond back. And I just was like, you know what? F it. I just went hard. And I would say I went hard, but it wasn't much different than I was doing already. It's just like when I would try to take the easy way out, I just wouldn't. I would always stick to my themes, right? You know how captions and Opus Clips has those words that pop up? I was doing that before AI did that. You know what I'm saying? So I was manually going through, and every single word would pop up on the screen at a different position when the kids talk, because no one can understand the kids because they were talking like babies. So I would have to like transcribe what they were saying and put it up on the screen. At times at night at 2:00 in the morning, I would be tired and I wouldn't want to do that. But I would, instead of quitting, that conversation with Gary Vee was like, I'll sleep for an hour and then I'll get back up and I'll finish these captions. Cause it would take me like 6 hours just to do the captions after I edited the video. You know what I'm saying? Um, and so that's what the grind kind of looked like. And then by the end of that summer, I had 70,000 subscribers. So I gained 50,000 subscribers over that month, over those 3 months. And then I got my first brand deal, and I only got paid, I think I got paid like $3,000 or $2,000 for that. But one of my homies got paid like $9,000. And I was like, what? And I got way more views than him. So then I was like, I started to manage my own brand deals. And then when you funny about your money, you start getting emotional when people try to lowball you. That's not good. You know what I'm saying? I started getting real emotional, bro. I was like, man, I'm about to burn all my bridges. So I had my homegirl, Maggie, who now runs the company, Madrid Management. She was representing me as far as my brand deals were concerned. And we started making some money.
Man. I want to lean into this. Like, so for you, did you realize, so you stopped, from what I hear you saying, you stopped quitting in the small things. So I stopped when I got tired. I didn't just leave the video alone. I went back to it. Or if I had an idea or things like that, wasn't like the big things. You started like continuing being resilient in the small things.
Yeah, like it just was, I had rules of engagement. You know what I'm saying? I had rules. This is how I work. This is what can stop me. This is what I will not stop for. You know, but there was arguments, you know. It was like, you know, my wife would be like, hey, as a family, we're going to this birthday party this weekend. And I'm like, I'm not going. I got a video to finish. And she's like, well, no, like you can't just keep working all the time. And I'm like, well, if I was in the military, I wouldn't even be here. You know, just pretend I'm in the military. And she was like, no, but she really cares about community. It's not that I don't, but I also know that like ain't gonna be no community if we don't make enough money to eat. You know what I'm saying? So, that's probably my hardest patch, is like helping my family change their mindset. And that's what's taken probably the most amount of time, even up to this day. But, I would say that I had rules of engagement, and then I would fight to keep some of those things sacred, you know?
Hmm. Interesting, man. That's good. Speaking of that, like some of the resistance from your family, man. Uh, has there ever been a time how important was it for you to feel like your family and your wife believed in you and what you were doing in this new
Okay.
venture?
Yeah. So, you know, I didn't really care if they believed in me in the beginning, because I believed enough for myself. Right. I knew that it wasn't her responsibility to like realize my dreams or see them. I had to manifest something for her to see. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I had to like work really hard to get her to believe in it. And that took a while, because once I started doing it, she was like, hey, you have a plan. Good for you. And then I started activating the plan. She was like, well, why you ain't clean up the house before you started filming? Why's my bra on the freaking door handle while you're filming? And I was like, well, you left your bra there. You know what I'm saying? And she's like, but I don't want nobody to see it. And I'm like, it's a bra. Who cares? And she's like, no, I don't want nobody to see it. And I was like, well, it's authentic. Nobody really cares. And so that would irritate her. But once she started to see the comments, and she seen like kids be like, yo, I never wanted to be a dad until I seen this. Thank you. You know, she started to be like, oh, I get it. Like, I grew up in a Black community. This is my wife speaking. Where I saw like affluence and, you know, regular family, but a lot of people don't get to see that. A lot of people growing up in single mom and single dad situations don't get to see that togetherness, and we show that. And so it was proof for people, and she started to see the vision. And then once success comes, you know, my wife had issues in her own life experience that would say that entrepreneurism isn't the best thing, right? It's the scariest thing ever. And so she really wasn't feeling me being an entrepreneur, and she didn't want to have any parts of it either. But now she's an entrepreneur as well. And so it took a lot of like reframing. She even asked me to stop filming, and I did. You know what I'm saying? Like I took a huge, we actually lost our house because I stopped filming. I stopped making content. We had to sell our house. You know what I'm saying? I had employees, agency, 5,000 square foot office in California, Southern California, Vista to be specific. Uh, Contractors, you know, everybody's working on a Mac Mini with a screen. Like I was killing it. And my son, it wasn't the belief that was the issue. It was the trust. Right. So I started to come home. I stopped working in the home. I joined a mastermind that was like, hey, if you can't get any work done at home, just run an office. So I rented an office, and then the office was like the one in the community office. So I couldn't really get anything done, especially music and sound escaping. So I got my own office. Then I got my own office, and I was there all the time because I had to lead a team and manage a team. But I wasn't home. And when I would come home, I would be there like, hey, let's shoot this content real quick. So when I come home, it'd be like, Dad's coming with the camera. And then there was no trust. Because anytime I'm around, I'm trying to film.
Yeah.
And so, which makes perfect sense. And so Yvette's like, man, you're kind of out of control. She goes, man, you got to buy my book, bro. This all the stuff's in there. But she goes,
I got it.
Sweet. So she goes, do we have a family business or is our business the family? And I was like, man, who cares? Let's kill this money. You know? And she's like, nah, for real. Like, where's the line? You know what I'm saying? And so I didn't know how to lead through that situation because I felt like I was a potential threat to my family, and my ambition was get like a hindrance, you know? And so I didn't know how to lead there because I know what it's like to have selfish parents, because I have selfish parents who put themselves before their kids. And I didn't want to be that. So I just gracefully was like, all right, well, I'll try to figure out another way to do this. And I just couldn't figure it out, you know? That's probably been the saddest lesson that I'm still like, we're still in that season of kind of rebuild, you know?
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we had to move to a farm in the desert with one toilet, 6 of us sharing one toilet in Hemet, California. It's hot as hell. Coyotes and some rattlesnakes and, you know, all types of stuff out there. And then we moved here last year. And that has definitely been better. But in this current season in time, I think I'm gun shy, bro. Like, I'm scared to be successful again because I don't want to risk the trust of my family. Now, that is all mental because nothing about my life has said that's true. As a matter of fact, even my kids are like, yo, let's make some more videos. Because when you make videos, not only do we make money, but I get to do the things I want to do. My son is into hockey. The Stanley Cup came to our house. You know what I'm saying? Because I told stories about hockey. Like I know it's just mental. I have like this mental block right now that I'm really trying to work through. That I'm not even in therapy for it anymore. I'm just really trying to be disciplined and work through it. It's so difficult though. It's so difficult. I'm having a hard time with that. But the brothers on Saturday morning are a safe place for me. And I'm a safe place for them, you know? So, I'm in good community. I have good friends. I have a wife who, trusts me. You know what I'm saying? I have children who believe in me, who trust me, who care. Nothing is holding me back but my own mental right now. So, but do you understand, with all that being said, because that was too much information, but I'm trying to make sure the people listening know what it's like to struggle, because they'll look at me and be like, man, he's making money and he hasn't left the house. He's still in his sweatpants. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you make money as a father? Like, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's hard, you know? Sometimes I'm mentally jacked up. Sometimes I'm doing really well, you know? But if we can't show that full spectrum and we only show the highs, then we sell people short, and they walk in, and when they start to feel those things, they get depressed and they don't have anyone to talk to, you know?
I mean, you just my next two questions, I mean, that was it. I guess I wanted to go back into that a little bit because that's a struggle of many men who want to be successful. How do you spend your time? I think is it mostly with the family, or a lot of men aren't in the type of work you do. So I think you have the great fortune of being able to make money while spending time with your family. Most men kind of have to choose going out and working to provide, or spending more time with the family and maybe not being able to provide. Um, wh- as far as like your ambition and that kind of, it sounds to me like start to take over that line. Well, where you are now and getting back into it, how have you found the best balance to say, hey, this is what I got to do, but I don't want my ambition to carry me over so I can keep my family's trust?
I know that nothing is worth losing trust with your family. As a man, that's all you truly got. Because even when your work or your word falls through, they're still expecting you to show up. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like your kids, your family is expecting you to pull, a Steph Curry or Dame Dillard, the Damian Lillard, whatever his name is. Pull,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Pull one of them shots from, the logo. Like that's what they're expecting. And so the trust for me is the most important thing. Nothing is worth it because I know what it's like to walk into a room and people be quiet because they think you're going to film them and expose them. Nothing's worth
Mhm.
that. It's also, I know that like, I don't trust my mom to this day. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's really like, it would take something really drastic for her, for me to trust her. I just don't, you know what I'm saying? I've learned not to trust her. That's what I've been taught. And
Mhm.
so, um, and I don't believe when my dad says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. I just don't believe it. You know what I'm saying? That's what he's taught me. That's what's been deposited. Um, and so how do I structure, you know, I have hope. One thing that would change my life is hope, is community. Like men who are also like sharing their gifts with the world, stewarding their time properly, and like loving like honoring themselves, taking care of their own body and health, and then like honoring God. Like I don't have that type of community. I got men who are like, man, keep doing your thing. Whatever you need, I'm here. You know what I'm saying? But it's almost like having a bunch of coaches and it's one dude on the field or one dude on the court. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody's a coach and a cheerleader and a fan, but I got nobody to pass the rock to,
Yeah.
And so, um, I'm struggling with that, bro. I'm struggling with that. I have to build community around like creative fathers. Um, and I don't need them to be in close proximity to me, but it would be nice, but I live in, the boondocks. So I might have to move, I might have to move and go somewhere else and to get that community. You know, but I definitely need more men in the trenches. And the men who are like my dudes, we just don't got time to connect. You know what I mean? Like I'm close with a lot of good brothers who are doing a lot of good work. We're just so busy because we're trying to keep everything afloat and move through or past the understanding instead of trying to be like, hey, I hope you're understanding what I'm trying to do here. Let me tell you the vision again. Let me tell you the vision again. You know, and if I would have known that I had to keep telling my wife the vision, you know, I should have known that through scripture, uh, because there were plenty of times where Moses was like, bro, what are we doing out here? Can we, you know what I'm saying? And God was just like, man, I got you. Here's this, here's that, here's an opportunity here, Um, so this isn't the best week to ask me that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe next week could be a better answer.
Nah, it's something that I think about. Something I think about often. Uh, can I ask you, like, what did your family learn from? What did you notice from your family from your time at the farm?
Oh man, that all we truly need is each other. We can have enough
Mm,
fun, and they smile big. They can make do with less. They don't need as much. A trampoline goes a long way.
mm,
Um, uh, Fear is okay. We lost power and the farm was getting threatened by fire. We had to evacuate a few times. Um, it's just stillness. Like I learned more about me and God and my wife than I did about the kids. But Yvette and I kind of looked at each other again and decided that we wanted to keep it going. There was a point where I was kind of like, yeah, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? Not because I wanted to leave her. It's just that, like, you know, she was actively pursuing things that just weren't healthy. You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't bring myself to keep in within that. And she understood. You know what I'm saying? She also got a mentor that like completely changed her life and, helped our marriage a lot. So, yeah, I learned stillness essentially.
is that time what saved your marriage? Because like, how do you make it out of that time where you're like, yeah, I'm out? Like once you get to that mindset, because I talked to um, one of my mentors actually who couldn't make it out of that. Yeah, I'm out. He had a situation where it got physical between him and his wife, where actually she was the aggressor, and he said he thought in his mind, "I'm about to put my hands on her." And once he thought that, he couldn't recover because he's like, "I can't do that." So he
Yeah.
could never get out of that mindset of being like, "Yeah, I'm out," even though she tried after that. They tried. But after when she saw that's where he was, she began to try, but he couldn't recover from that. Was it the farm that did that? How did you make it out of that mindset of, yeah, I'm out?
Yeah. I mean, really, it is the internal dialogue, right? Me fathering myself first, right? Me saying, of course you want to quit, son.
Yeah.
Of course you do, right? You don't know what can happen when you press on, right? And you don't
Mm,
believe that you can. Um, since the age of 9, I've been flirting with the idea of killing myself.
mm,
That was the first time I asked God to take my life. I was 9 years old. That was my first genuine prayer when my mom started beating me. You know what I'm saying? Like when things aren't adding up, I want to quit, you know? And so my wife never put her hands on me. It just was that she just couldn't see. It was like being married to someone who was blind but was operating a vehicle. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? It's like, bro, get out of the car. You can't do this. And she's like, no, I promise you I can. I know where I'm going. You know what I mean? And so trying to convince someone that they shouldn't be driving, you know? Um, I think that the one thing that God really allowed me to say to myself is just to keep going aspect, because one of the harder parts of our marriage was like for 6 years, she didn't want to like talk about sex. She did it out of obligation. Like it just was like a no discussion for us. And so um it was uh it was when she realized God's calling on my life and decided, I'm going to figure out what my issue is, and I'm going to make sure that we are having a thriving sex life because I know what God has put in you. Like when you're like sexually frustrated and you're kind of like, Lord, I don't know why you gave me this person. I abstained. I did what I was supposed to do. At least you can give me someone, right? I'm tripping, right? Like I'm sitting up here like, woe is me about sex, which is crazy, right? So she like figured it out, and like our sex life became like this thriving experience where we're both experiencing like this maximum pleasure that she didn't even know was possible. I didn't know she could, it was possible for her as well. And so that gave me enough faith to believe that she could change. I just didn't know if I could endure. But the problem is endurance. It's
Mm.
not self-control. It's like internal dialogue, and just realizing, hey, your mental is going to tell you to stop, but you can actually go further. Um, that is my own message. I'm not telling everybody to endure. You know what I mean? I know that for the love of my wife and for what I'm called to do, that I need to love her into completion. You know what I'm saying? Not just because it benefits my pockets, because I do believe if I was to divorce my wife, my mission, like I would look like a sucker out here. You know what I'm saying? Or, she gets married to another man and then, he's a weirdo. Like I let that go, because of my pride. But because I made a covenant with the Lord to care and choose his daughter daily, and sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's hard for sure.
Mm. Endurance. I think that's what I'm going to name this episode. So for you, endurance is bigger than just, even bigger than marriage or purpose work. It's like for you, God is showing you not to quit at life. Oh man,
Yeah.
God is. I don't know. He's amazing. Like the things he's doing. Um,
Revealing to us. Like he's trying
yeah,
to speak to us, right, in certain ways. And you don't have to learn it the way that works, but because we're so flawed, like that's how we learn, endurance in the small things for the big things too.
that's big. Man, this episode is convicting me a lot. So I appreciate you. I appreciate
That was not my intention, but
appreciate you.
I'm glad, I guess.
Um, nah, I think I needed it. I was talking to my guy D Johns, does a Dear Son podcast, and initially I wanted to do this podcast to help other people, and I realized like if you talk about guys, what he's doing is helping me the most, and I'm just sharing it. Uh, speaking of the marriage, how did you and your wife begin to craft the language, you guys' own language? Because I feel like it's a big part of marriage is learning your partner's language and communicating yours and finding out what you guys' language is going to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think each relationship has a language. Certain things other people wouldn't respond to or think is disrespectful. Other marriages are just kind of like, yeah, that's just how we talk to each other. I think therapy was kind of the main thing. Before, she was bringing the language of her family and I was bringing the language of my family. And, whether it was a lot of language or no language at all, or, only affirmations or only judgment and, correction, like we were both bringing two different types of conversation to the table. Therapy really gave us the tools to say how we feel or search for understanding in the other. Um, you know, we often say, this is very common in therapy, and you'll see a lot of people say is, what did you hear me say just now? You know what I mean? I heard you say you don't trust me, you hate me. That's not what I said. Let's go back. I mean, I'll say it like this. A lot of that is how we talk to each
Mm.
other. And sometimes conversations last for weeks because we're trying to say the right words to get the person to hear us. I'm big on analogies. You know what I'm saying? And so one of the things that I was trying to communicate with her since, early on is like, hey, I don't really feel safe around my mother. Please stop bringing her around me. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And so she had to experience it for herself, some distasteful behavior. And then I had to kind of let her know, like, hey, like, when you bring my mom into a space, I put on life survival like gear. Like I put on a vest, I grab my flashlight, I grab a flint, I'm preparing for survival. You know what I'm saying? Because my survival has been like, I feel like it's been threatened by the things she's said and done. And so you're just like, bro, we're in the kitchen, relax. And I'm sitting there with floaties on and, you know what I'm saying, goggles, and you're kind of like, relax. But you don't understand what happens when I feel unsafe. This is how I protect myself, you know? And so that was ultimately something that my wife probably thought she needed to fix in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Oh, my mother's great and we can't do that. You need to fix that. But later on, she's just kind of like, hey, man, if that's bad for you, then I ain't going to put you in that position, you know? But it took years of us having to have that conversation, you know? Um, and I think that, you know, one thing is like the language you speak, but the other part is like the heart you hear with, right? Because when my wife says, hey, you need to fix that relationship with your mother, she's thinking about a legacy situation. And she's thinking about like, I don't want our children to grow up and think that grandparents aren't safe or bad or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And though that is valid, like I have to be patient with her misunderstanding why I'm wearing all the gear.
Yeah.
Like I got to be patient with that because she just does not get it. And she's never had to get it. And praise God, she don't get it. You know what I mean? But now she understands more because it's been more time and clarity, and so I think therapy is the thing that gave us the most tools, and then we've just kept armoring ourselves with the tools and changing. Like I always carry one of these because I'm a dad and I lived on a farm, but like
Yeah.
this has multiple different tools. You know what I'm saying? Like this this has multiple different tools, and this is for those of you listening. This is it's called a Gerber. Most military people call it a Gerber, but it's essentially a Swiss Army knife. Um, but sometimes this flathead doesn't work, and I have to change this one. And these scissors need to be bigger because there's things that aren't really cutting to the right degree or whatever. And I don't need a bottle opener. So the language is essentially this with changing heads. You know what I'm saying? That's me
Yeah.
with analogies. That's how I get down.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you pulled that one out quick. Uh, um, you know what, man? I had a little bit more, but I feel like we should
You
end
said a
there.
lot. Yeah, we said a lot.
I think that's the episode, honestly. Endurance, and self-reflection. Um, so Glenn, I appreciate you, man. Where if the people want to buy your book, follow you on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the handles, where can they find you? Where can they follow you and reach out?
If you type in BELEAF as in Frank, belief, um you type IN, it'll pop up. But Belief Mel is the Instagram. There you can pretty much find everything. You can find the Saturday morning groups for black men, becoming good fathers groups. You could find the book there. You can find all the things that we have going on in the community. You can find my wife's book, Release, Rest, Remain, which is a 30-day devotional that my wife has worked on for a long time, and is really, really brilliant work. You can find the rhymes, you can find everything there. And if those of you, what I'm saying, if you're listening, you're kind of like, oh man, that was a cool episode, whatever, man, please pray for me. I know what God has on. I know what God has given me, and I don't know if I have the endurance to do it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not selfish, but I'm like, Lord, give it to somebody else. Like if you know what I'm saying? But I want to die empty. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that's what I would ask for. You don't have to follow me, but if you could pray, that'd be amazing. You know?
Well, I think you had endurance, man. Listening to some of this story, the little bit that I got today, it's kind of listening to your story has been incredible. And like I said, it convicts me to get up. Like I got to work harder. I got to stop quitting a lot in the little things if I want to really do this and bring it to where I want to bring it. And that's good. It's good to feel that, I believe. So I
Yeah.
definitely think you will, man. Um, and you are. It's not even that you will, you are. So I definitely be praying as well
Thank you, bro.
for you to get out, your own head and step out and do that thing. So
I appreciate you. I need that 100%, bro. Thank you, man. And I'm excited too, bro. I'm excited because, I have the opportunity to meet with brothers like you and be reminded of all that God has done, and is continues to do through, you know, the calling He's put on me.
man, thank you. Thank you. That's gonna be it for the Male to Man podcast today, man. This was a great showing. Again, we thank Glenn and we thank Belief in Fatherhood for all that he is doing, man. We will see you guys soon. We got a lot of things lined up. So thank you.